This is the Extra Point Podcast from Arizona's family.
Well, week one is in the books for the Arizona Cardinals, and it was terrible. Let's just call it like it is. Let's sort this thing out, completely overreact to it. You know, the Super Bowl wasn't won in week one, but was it lost? Brack from PHNX zooms into the Extra Point Podcast right now. And, Bo, what do you know about week one? What do you make of it?
Make of it, it's not like the old Ted Lasso saying, you know, the goldfish is the happiest animal on the planet because it has a 10-second memory. Like, they can't forget about the loss on Sunday. They need to let this thing kind of resonate a little bit. And it seems like that's what the team's doing right now. It just got out of Cliff Kingsbury's press conference on Monday afternoon, and he just kind of was reiterating that this team was not happy with their performance and that they're on the fly going into week two, have to make a bunch of changes after an offseason of what we perceived as kind of ill preparation, Mark.
Yeah, and I think about, you know, walking out of the stadium in Los Angeles and seeing what we saw in that playoff game, and you just feel like not much has changed. Have they, in my opinion, I mean, have they gotten worse, in your opinion, since last year?
I mean, defensively, absolutely. I mean, the offense looked very similar as it did last season, and that's not good enough to make up for where they kind of fell off defensively. But no, I think on that side of the football, even if it wasn't the Chiefs who were like a hot knife through butter yesterday on Sunday, I think that this defense has some major issues. And as far as getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, who's going to bring it? There were no sacks on Sunday. As far as who's going to step up, you were looking at a pair of first rounders, and Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins, they got attendance awards. They were there. They showed up. They finally played a lot, Mark. That was a refreshing sign, but they didn't play very well. Poor Isaiah Simmons had to take on one of the best tight ends in the history of the game, and he made him look that way. It was nobody really stepped up outside of Budda Baker on the defensive side of the football, and they're going to need to make some major changes as far as how they're going to operate that side of the football just to kind of hold their head above water. And we'll see how long they're going to be without J.J. Watt, you know, day to day with the calf. But how much can you rely upon a guy who's oft injured like Watt?
No, for sure. By the way, I lead the league, I think, in attendance awards all time. So that's about 90% of success is just showing up. I think that's a good quote.
It's all like guys, right. You and I, who have no actual talent. What we can do, just show up.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. We just show up, put on a smile. I mean, somebody's got to talk about this. This is the hard work of trying to break down a team that does not appear to be going anywhere. But my question is, I mean, week one, you saw other teams struggle. Should we go ahead and just flush week one and think that it can get better? I mean, it can't. Tell me it can get better, right? What are you expecting this week in Vegas?
I think it absolutely gets better. It's too talented of a roster. I mean, this is the roster that the Cardinals envisioned was more like 7-0, 10-2 at points last season that they were bringing back. But, you know, there was just no benefits from how they prepared for this season. You didn't see any on display on Sunday. And now they have to pivot, and it's not an easy thing to do. But, you know, you've got Kyler Murray in the fold for the foreseeable future, and he gives you a chance each and every Sunday. He just has to elevate the talent on that roster, and they have to just clean things up. They have to be more prepared. I think that, you know, just by not playing the Chiefs, can we actually just give some credit to the Chiefs? I mean, they're a juggernaut. They were an absolute wagon on Sunday. Patrick Mahomes is a guy who's never lost an opener. He's lost 13 games in the regular season his entire career. He was phenomenal. The preparation from Andy Reid, the head coach of the Chiefs, was just as on par as his quarterback. And just by not playing the Chiefs, I think the Arizona Cardinals have a better chance to win in week two. And the Raiders weren't exactly world beaters in their opening week. They lost to the Chargers. Derek Carr threw 3 picks. They invested so much money in the pass rush and got 0 sacks, just like the Cardinals. So, and Josh McDaniels, in his second stint as a head coach, is it still a question mark despite having success as an OC in New England all those years? So I think that there is definitely, you know, there's absolutely room for improvement, and they have to. But there are still feelings of optimism surrounding this team.
Yeah, and I also look at the late season swoons last year and trying to avoid that, and the Chiefs kind of setting the standard. Okay, Cardinals, this is how you have to play if you want to be a contender here. Do you think the Cardinals have enough talent on the roster to be a contender, to be a playoff team?
I think they have enough to make it back to the playoffs, but as far as, where they are and where teams like the Chiefs and the Bills and, the other teams that are in that conversation, they're light years away from that, unfortunately. And, you talk about the Chiefs and their preparation and how they run their organization. It's the Arizona Cardinals, for some reason, they don't want to run their organization that way. They're very reluctant to do so. And I've been hearing a lot of things coming out of the organization the less than 24 hours since the loss that sound like people holding themselves accountable. But, what are they going to truly do to fix this thing? Because I think that there's some bad habits already in play here that they're just going to have to somehow move away from. And we know that when you've developed a bad habit, it's not as easy as just saying, hey, I'm going to do something differently, So the Arizona Cardinals are going to have to, on the fly, figure out, how they can be successful, and maybe ditch some of the philosophies that this organization's had in place.
Yeah, and you think about the old line from The Natural: losing is a disease, and it tends to take over everybody. I was a little surprised they canceled practice on Friday, and just talking about the lack of urgency, and you're just kind of sitting there going, I mean, you're playing the Chiefs in week 1. How are you not? How is that not? How do you not sleep at night before that?
Right. It is puzzling. I mean, all the things that you romanticize as a fan, like that you want from your team is a team that's hungry to win and is thinking about their opponent and how they can get the edge. And this team doesn't seem like it feels like that's important. They think that their talent is enough to just win. And until they prove it, I don't think that this fan base, I think that people are going to be skeptical until they can prove it. And they did it for sample size, right? For more than the sample size early last season, but the NFL caught up. And the NFL is the biggest league as far as making adjustments. And the Arizona Cardinals haven't adjusted for far too many weeks. When will they finally do so? Are they capable of doing so? That's the biggest thing going forward for this team, because right now they've just they're trending in the wrong direction, and they need a win as early as this upcoming week to kind of change and pivot things.
Well, and I look at Bill Belichick for years. I think his record in week 1 wasn't always great. Aaron Rodgers' record wasn't always great. Embarrassment is a great teacher. And, Cliff Kingsbury's not going to be a guy in there turning over chairs and holding guys' feet to the fire. He's definitely a player's coach. So what sort of Cardinals team do you expect in week 2 to take the field in Las Vegas after being thoroughly embarrassed?
I think a more focused team, no doubt about it, more detail-oriented team, a hungrier team, and a team more of aware of, where it's, I guess, where they don't excel, where they're going to have to kind of prop up, on the defensive side of the football. The offense has to be more, in line and set up to be successful against this Raiders team. They have a pass rush. The Chargers were able to combat that. The Arizona Cardinals are going to have to do the same thing. You can't let this be a Chandler Jones revenge game. You're facing a familiar face. Oh gosh! And you can't let him.
I can already see that.
Back up why the Raiders, handed in the bag this offseason. It's this team, I think defensively, Vance Joseph knows what he's dealing with now. He's going to have to be a magician, and then Cliff Kingsbury has to get this offense, its calling card, up to what people's expectations are for it.
Yeah, and I that Chandler Jones revenge game, I can already see that. I mean, maybe it's just seeing what happened last year in Tennessee. More concerned right now about the Cardinals' offensive line or about the Cardinals' secondary?
I would say more concerned about the secondary, because I think the offensive line, when Justin Pugh comes back, there's some continuity there. There's some familiarity. There's guys that are pros. And then with the defensive secondary, there's not even enough warm bodies right now, and especially in the cornerback room.
Throw you and me in there. I'll play hard till I get hurt.
There were 4 guys out there. I felt like, you look on the sidelines, you might see Ryan Gosling from Remember the Titans, guys who were scared, and because they haven't been there before. At least with the offensive line, there's been guys that have been there before and performed. Are they, all pros? No, but I think that they're guys that you're comfortable moving forward with. The cornerback room, and Byron Murphy, who's supposed to be your best guy, struggled mightily on Sunday. You're encouraged by Marco Wilson, but like one encouraging performance, and then the rest, you don't know what to expect each and every week. That's a big question mark. That's the biggest question mark and need for the Cardinals going forward. Trayvon Mullen, who came over from the Raiders in a trade later this preseason, Could he be available? I think that would be a decent boost for them, but that's also coming from where they are, which is very low.
Yeah, and I don't expect Isaiah Simmons to drop many more interceptions or play.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like he was trying too hard from Kansas City. Everybody's texting him. He's going to calm down a little bit. As far as Zaven and Isaiah going forward, is this what we should expect? I mean, I thought both looked very tentative.
Yeah.
They really need to turn it loose.
They do. Vance Joseph said he wants to see, before the season, he said that Isaiah Simmons, he wants to see his IQ raise as far as out there on the playing field. And he just wants to see Zaven play. And we saw at least Zaven's part against the Chiefs. He played a career high snaps. He had a career high combined tackles and tackles for loss, and still didn't play that well. Will the reps, help him get closer to that first round grade? That remains to be seen. But, Isaiah Simmons, that going up against Travis Kelce, he's made a lot of people look foolish, but still you got to be more competitive than that. And I think Isaiah Simmons has shown that he can be, but consistently the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, that's going to be something that's a narrative that he's going to have to shake off himself with just stellar play down the rest of the season.
Yeah, they both did not look like very athletic guys, which is crazy because they are freak athletes, and they both look like they were thinking too much, they were trying too hard, and just sort of got stuck in their own head. I think they're going to get better, and say by Thanksgiving you might have a story there of two guys that have grown together, but they just, I mean, even just, I had the binoculars on Zaven Collins a couple times, and he was hesitating when the ball was snapped. He was like just trying to process so much information. So hopefully that gets better. As far as Kyler Murray goes, worth the investment?
Yeah, I mean, that's the price of doing business, drafting and developing a quarterback. And, you could not pay him, right? Does that justify it? In this league of have-nots, you have to have a quarterback to compete. And Kyler Murray's good enough to do that, but he's got to be better, right? He's got to be able to elevate this roster when there's no DeAndre Hopkins, when there's no Rondale Moore, when you're down one of your starting offensive linemen. You have to be able to overcome those things. And he proved that, like, he had decent numbers. You can look at the box score and like, hey, that wasn't a bad game. And you can look at the box score from every game that they lost at the end of last season and say, he didn't play that poorly, but he has to be great. He has to elevate his game. He has to figure out what's going to separate him from being this good quarterback, a guy who's made 2 Pro Bowls. He's got an offensive rookie of the year, trophy in his trophy case, but he has to elevate his game. And, we have to see that, it starts week 2. He's going to have to do that to show that this was a sound investment and that nobody's going to make any questions about whether or not he was worth $230.5 million. All
right, so as far as the future goes in the playoffs, is this a catalyst, the week 1 embarrassment that will get the team into the playoffs eventually, something they can lean on all year, or is this more of an indication they will not be going to the playoffs?
Man, it's I think it's more of a catalyst. I do. But that's, glass half full mentality and outlook. This team has enough talent. If they can somehow hold their head above water through week 6 and get DeAndre Hopkins back, it will be a complete game changer for this team, because they haven't been the same since he really has left the playing field for various reasons, injuries and now the suspension. I think that this can be certainly a learning tool for the Arizona Cardinals going forward. And they've got a couple chances here against the Raiders, against the Panthers, maybe against Philly, to steal a couple games in the meantime before DeAndre Hopkins comes back. I think that they can be a team that returns to the playoffs.
Well, that would be, I guess, an ending that would be great for Hard Knocks or a Hollywood script or something like that. And you're Ryan Gosling. Remember the Titans quote earlier, or I guess reminiscing about that scene, got me thinking, favorite football movie and why?
Oh, man. I mean, it's tough to beat Remember the Titans. I grew up in that area. I actually played in the same district as T.C. Williams.
Really?
Back in my high school. They were not as good as they were back when that story was built around. But, as far as best football movies, I know people like to hate on Rudy. Rudy's great, but I think Remember the Titans is probably my number 1 seed.
What was the one with Tom Cruise for Ampipe? What was the one he played defensive back? All the right moves. Well, yeah. Leah Thompson was amazing.
Does Jerry Mcguire qualify as a football movie, or is that more like a rom-com?
I think so. I think it counts as a football movie. So if we go top 5. We got all the right moves. We got Remember the Titans. We got Jerry Mcguire. What would be our other two?
I mean, there's North Dallas 40s,
Yes.
an old school one.
Mac Davis is the quarterback, drinking the beer in the hot tub.
Right.
Nick Nolte's smoking.
I always liked Varsity Blues.
Yes.
But that was kind of like my wheelhouse.
Okay, so Varsity Blues, fun story about that. That was shot in Austin when I was in college, and I was a sophomore at the University of Texas, and I had a summer job, and my buddies were like, hey, we're getting paid $75 a night to go play high school football. You should come out. And I was like, go play like in a movie? Like, I guess I was so close to being removed from playing football. I was like, I played a lot of football and I have a job, and I totally should have gone and tried out and been in the movie. That's like my huge regret in life.
I mean, you could have been cut up. You would have looked like Isaiah Simmons going up against James Vanderbeek. He would have just been taking you apart in the defensive secondary.
I might have used performance-enhancing drugs just to get in the movie. So yeah, okay. So that's our top 5. Favorite sports movie of all time. What would that be for you?
I think Field of Dreams. It's just, it has everything. The performances. I grew up a baseball fan. You know, the father-son dynamic. My mom's from Iowa. We visited Field of Dreams all the time, but most Kevin Costner movies are a hit anyway, but Field of Dreams, I think, is the top one. Sneaky one that I really like is Moneyball. It's really grown on me. It seems to be on TV all the time, and I'm always watching it.
No, that's some solid viewing right there. As far as you, what do you got coming up on the podcast? Where can we find your stuff, and where will you be spewing these hot takes besides the Extra Point podcast?
We're not short on hot takes, and the Monday after a brutal loss like we witnessed on Sunday, us at PHNX Cardinals, we're still picking up the pieces, the fallout from the loss, and how, like, exactly what we kind of talked about today, how they can kind of right this ship before week 2 hits against the Raiders, and it's going to be so important. So Johnny Venerable, myself, and Damian Anderson, we're going to be breaking it down, and we do it every day. Make sure you're following along with us on the bird on Twitter at PHNX_Cardinals. We have a blast. We celebrate Cardinals football even after brutal losses like Sunday.
I worry about Johnny, though. I feel like he takes us too hard with the losses. Is he okay?
He's not in a great spot, but we're gonna get him out of it.
Talk sports movies maybe. And thank you for not bringing up Texas, Alabama. You're the first person I've talked to today who has not brought that up.
I liked what I saw defensively from the Longhorns. You can hang your hat on that.
Yeah, you can.
And Bryce Young was down in the end zone.
The officiating. I mean, the thing is, if Rashawn Johnson does not run out of bounds with under 2 minutes to play, you probably give the best player in college football less time to beat you. You don't give the best player in college football time to beat you. That's just the bottom line. That's a whole nother podcast. I
turned my wife, who probably didn't even listen to what I said because she was my only audience at the time watching the game. I'm like, you're just gonna watch Bama rip poor Austin's heart out up this next 2 minutes and change. So yeah, unfortunately, that's what they're known for.
Another reason to go have a post-game beer or 7 in Austin. So, well, hey, thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate it. We'll see you back at the facility, and keep up the good work there on PHNX.
Thanks, Mark.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.